Milrem Robotics released a test video of its robot, which is said to be equipped with artificial intelligence. The Type X combat vehicle is designed to assist troops in breaking through enemy defensive positions. Its navigation and obstacle detection systems are based on smart algorithms, which should make the tanks smarter than people, above all, the opponents. In terms of weaponry, there are some options. For example, the robot can be equipped with a massive cannon, anti-tank missiles, and even tethered drones for remote reconnaissance. It's worth noting that despite the ongoing debate over the ethical use of artificial intelligence in combat vehicles, the company has already managed to attract funding from the European Commission for the development of a tracked robot called Themis, and it will be used to transport military supplies and neutralize improvised explosive devices. Festo, which has long been engaged in serious research into the application of the most amazing abilities of animals and insects in robotics within the bionic learning network, has released a new and amazing video. In it, they showed a gentle manipulator repeating the amazing moves and functions of the elephant's trunk. Its filigree design was made possible by miniaturization of various elements of the manipulators. The E-Road consists of two segments, 140 millimeters long with a conical diameter. In its center, there is a design of the material printed on a 3D print and ultra-elastic rods for stabilization. Around this center, resembling a vertebral column, there are thin wires made of a special metal material, the so-called alloy with a memory shape. It serves as a kind of artificial muscle, allowing engineers to individually and controllably bend the robot trunk in any spatial direction by means of heating design elements. Thanks to its low intrinsic weight of only 12 grams, the trunk can be easily moved using actuators made of shape memory alloys. Compared to other actuators, the bionic E-trunk has the highest force-to-weight ratio. In Italy, the first fully developed humanoid robot was introduced. Oversonic Ro-B is 1 meter 75 centimeters tall and 70 kilograms in weight and is already in the market. It is stated that it can operate autonomously, working in industrial warehouses, sanitizing premises, and in-control operations. But in addition, with the help of artificial intelligence and voice interface, Ro-B can recognize people and communicate with them independently. Also, the robot with 40 movable joints and a full set of sensors is perfectly oriented in the surrounding area and can safely move in a crowd of people. It's equipped with hand grips that allow it to pick up items from 3 centimeters in diameter and carry weights of up to 50 kilograms with a trolley. The robot stores all the memories in its database, can mirror the user's actions for learning new, and can also be programmed with the help of a built-in panel. How do you like Ro-B? Let us know in the comments. But the world's most dexterous humanoid robotics robot, while still separate from robots, are being created by Shadow Robot, which you can see in a recent video. While all of that might have been a mouthful, the unique and unparalleled, according to the developers, technology provides telepresence from anywhere in the world and allowing it to perform complex and very accurate movements with fine motors. Also, robotic arm with 24 joints and 20 active degrees of freedom provide enough tactile feedback so that you know exactly what you are doing and how. Scientists at Stanford University have created a tiny wireless amphibious robot that can move around inside the human body to deliver drugs. A robot based on the origami principle of sealing can crawl on the organs or swim in various environments of the body. The robot, like most of these devices, can be controlled with a magnetic field. Only in this case, the field not only guides the robot but also controls its configuration, which changes allow the robot to move and perform useful tasks. This design allows the robot to be truly shredded. Now the device is undergoing preliminary testing. They will then move on to animal testing and then human clinical trials. Researchers at Stanford University came up with Agility Robotics Digit, a new, more capable hand. If, with its original limbs, the robot can only take boxes and basically just use them to maintain balance, it has now learned to interact with various deformable objects. With these new designs, the hands can take into account surface irregularities at a macro-scale form, mesoscale wavelength, and micro-scale roughness. This provides good shear grip on surfaces with a small amount of grip. All that thanks to the use of hybrid electrostatic and adhesive strips at the end of the hands. And as a result, Digit can take different items with the least possible force, and it can even carry a bouquet of flowers and give you a gift. The American technology company Onyx Industries has developed an advanced tail module for the Visual 60 robot from Ghost Robotics. It allows robots already in the U.S. Army to swim in the water for more than half an hour. The Nautical Autonomous Unmanned Tail Unit, or NAUT, uses water jets to help the robot navigate in the water, allowing the robot to swim through small ponds that may come in its path. It's reported that mounted equipment can move a Vision 60 at speeds of 3 knots or 5.5 kilometers per hour and keep it afloat for up to 35 minutes. The new ability will not only allow the robot to observe water bodies, but can also help the military explore waterways that it can be mined with. Remember, Vision 60 is positioned by the company as a cheap, modular, all-weather ground system of medium size, capability, and able to carry up to 10 kilograms of payload and moving for 3 hours in a row at speeds of 3 meters per second on only a single charge. By the way, this is not the first robot that's not afraid of water, although the first self-floating. For example, Unitree's B-1 robot has also been tested with the Navy SEALs at least part of this video. The robot can be fully submerged underwater, operate autonomously for 4 to 5 hours, carry loads of up to 40 kilograms, and withstand a weight of up to 100 kilograms, although only standing in one place. It's the largest robot of a Chinese company 67 centimeters tall and over a meter long. And the robots of another Chinese company, Deep Robotics, do not know how to swim and dive, so they expanded their capabilities on the ground, learning to interact with a swarm of robots and drones. The company signed a strategic agreement with the Huzhou Institute of Zhejiang University to collaborate in further research aimed at finding various opportunities in the field of drones and quadrupeds. By the way, Robotics Systems Lab ETH Zurich has announced its robot animal to explore the nature of Italy. Scientists have clarified that this is not a vacation, but a serious project of the European Union, in which they will try to monitor selected plant species and habitats in general with the help of a robot. SpaceX has been approved to launch Starship from the Boca Chica space launch site. The United States Federal Aviation Administration required Elon Musk to make only 75 changes to the test process of the Starship, after which SpaceX would be able to start the launches. The adjustments should reduce environmental damage and inconvenience to people living nearby. The amendments include, for example, changing the lighting of the complex, hiring a biologist to monitor environmental damage, early warning of tests, and restrictions on the closure of public roads leading to the site. According to Musk's latest announcement, Starship will be ready for the first orbital flight in July and the second will be in August. The first flight plan submitted by SpaceX to the Federal Communications Commission includes the separation of the first stage from the carrier at suborbital altitude, and its landing will be near the launch site. Starship itself will continue to fly until it reaches 200 kilometers. EV Safe Charge introduced Ziggy, the mobile robot for charging electric vehicles. The robot can be called via smartphone applications or onboard information in the infotainment system. It will come and serve any parking spot, simultaneously displaying information or advertisements. Ziggy is designed for parking in shopping and entertainment centers, hotels, and other commercial facilities. The robot requires no additional infrastructure and can move from one electric car to another until it charges all the cars in the parking lot. Ziggy itself will return to its base to recharge from the electric grid, battery, solar power, or any combination thereof. The interesting thing here is that the robots will be available for rent, otherwise the company itself will be on the conscience. DJI will develop a Level 4 autopilot for ground transport. To do this, the company has created a team of about 1,000 developers, with the works being carried out since 2019, and they must demonstrate on the electric car Kiwi EV, manufactured by SAIC GM Wuling Automobile. It's reported that tests have already been carried out on these test roads, and the car mileage in autopilot exceeded 1 million kilometers. As a result, DJI is going to develop not only algorithms, but also the necessary sensors and components. In addition, the subsidiary of DJI, Livox Technology, developer of LiDAR for drones, is also developing and testing LiDAR for ground-based robotic vehicles. Hyundai Motor Corp launched the first robotaxi service in South Korea, namely in Seoul. RoboRide offers short rides in the Ioniq 5 electric vehicles with machine learning algorithms. Currently, the service is being tested, so it's available only in one part of the city and only by Hyundai employees. But the company plans to remove all restrictions and give general access to the service in the nearest future. Hyundai is known to develop Level 4 offline driving technology based on advanced driver assistance systems. The Ioniq 5 is equipped with cameras, LiDARs, and radars, as well as softwares for algorithms integration and remote monitoring. Initially, the driver will be in the cab, but once the company receives a number of additional permits, the robot car will drive by itself. In general, everything is the same as when testing other robotic vehicles in China, the US, and Russia. Engineers at MIT introduced an artificial intelligence chip that would allow smartphones and laptops to be upgraded instead of buying new models. I wonder how this will work with Apple and Samsung as well as other big players. A new device capable of making any gadget versatile, similar to bricks like Lego. It would be impossible to connect the newest sensors and processors. Reconfigurable software will help to quickly upgrade gadgets and reduce electronic waste. In the chip design, alternate layers of sensitive and processing elements, as well as light-emitting diodes, allowing the layers of the chip to transmit light. Light transmits information over the chip, allowing it to reconfigure, for example, to switch places or to overlay layers, so you can add new sensors or updated processor. Peter Parker is a very clever guy, but he is also sometimes unlucky. The same thing happened to the robot that portrayed Spider-Man in the Disney Guy. During the 100,000th performance of this stunt, the robot lost its limbs and crashed into a building. The robot has been working in the park since 2021 and is able to make its own decisions when you need to bend, tumble, and slow down, floating in the air at an altitude of 25 meters in real time. Disney has its own robotic division where it develops robots for its parks, and it's fair to say they're quite impressive. Chinese scientists were able to identify the source of water on the moon, discovered by the Chang'e 5 landing module in January. No, the Chinese rover did not find a river or a lake, but it did find about 30 hydroxyl parts per million in rocks and soil on the surface of the moon. This proves that the rocks collected by the device were once in contact with water in the study area. Now the researchers have all possible versions of the origin of hydroxyl parts, except one: the presence of the inner lunar origin, which played an important role in the formation of crystallization of the late lunar basalt magma. Lunar water is expected to support the future resources of lunar missions. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and don't miss any new episodes from the world of robotics and high tech. The Automatica 2022 Robotics Expo was held in the US, and here you could see what the world will be like in 2050. Food processing robots, basketball robots, robots in warehouses and cafes. The DLR Institute of Robotics and Mechatronics brought its humanoid robot Justin and Sarah robotic arm on a mobile platform to the show. But it was the new anthropomorphic robot David, which is expected to approach human capabilities in dynamics, dexterity, and endurance that attracted the most attention. The robot's about the height of an average adult, weighing only 26 kilograms and has 41 degrees of freedom and variable stiffness in all joints. It's driven by 76 brushless DC motors and has 165 position sensors. DLR's latest interesting development is a robotic chair for people with severe movement impairments, in which a robotic arm is integrated. It uses muscle signals to read from the surface of the skin and control the robotic limb, which is supposed to give its owners sufficient freedom and independence together with the chair. The robot is also endowed with its own knowledge of the world in order to anticipate human desires. And of course, the robot arm is completely safe for the owner and can manipulate all the same objects as the human hand. Also on display was the Garmy robot, designed as an assistant to the elderly. The robot should help in everyday life, for example with household chores. The robot will also come in handy for rehabilitation exercises and remote communication with doctors. The developers plan to equip Garmy with measuring devices such as ECG and ultrasound. Combined with the use of IoT sensors, the doctor has access to information through the robot that can help him act quickly in emergencies. Stoger Automation showcased its Spats robot at the show, which has several screwing and gripping tools built in. It's a complete assembly solution, even for miniature items such as collector car models. Also on display was a robotic inspection of an electric BMW i4. The Doosan cobots played drums, poured drinks, and even made hot noodles and immediately poured them into portions. And of course, there was also a robot cafe, this time presented by KUKA and its light and sensitive arms LBR IIWA. The team of ExoIQ brought to the exhibition a new exoskeleton, the S700. in which you can see the desired power or just turn it off when you don't need it. And all this at the touch of a button without having to remove the design. The young German company robotics showed its various applications of its cognitive robots. The company itself develops manipulators and creates software for them with elements of artificial intelligence. Touchless safe human detection technology and built-in sensors allow the bots to see, hear, understand, and even, as the developers say, sense humans and even think for themselves. Cobots can work in warehouses or auto repair shops, but the company sees them primarily as a versatile home helper. The robots can move even the smallest and most fragile objects. Kenon Robotics brought its service robots to the exhibition. The company's more than 30,000 robots are already working in more than 600 cities around the world, but are just about to conquer Europe. Equipped with a fully autonomous positioning and navigation system, as well as highly sensitive sensoring and obstacle avoidance technology, Kenon robots adapt to a variety of challenges in real-world scenarios. The robots are designed for restaurants and hotels. The bots know how to ride elevators and can deliver anything directly to your room at any time of day or night. Also on display were countless industrial robots that seem to have learned how to do just about anything, find and manipulate objects of any weight or shape, perform all manufacturing tasks, work in medical labs, or just about anywhere. I like to think that in this high-tech future, there's still going to be a place for real humans. In other news, the European Space Agency has unveiled its four-wheeled, two-armed Interact ESA robot. The bot is part of a group of robots for a lunar mission, and it's modified specifically to work on the steep slopes of a volcano. The robot will need to interface with another planetary vehicle, a drone, and a fixed landing module that will provide the robots with Wi-Fi and power for autonomous work. The animal robot finally got its robotic arm and learned how to use it to turn wheels, pull a lever, push doors, pull a rope, and lift loads, as well as performing various other tasks. The robot moves by remote control, but once it reaches its destination, it performs the task entirely autonomously. The perception is made with the help of Vicon's motion capture system and the robot's joint state readings. Toyohashi University of Technology introduced gossip robots that can communicate with each other about current events and the weather in a way that humans can listen to in the background. Added emotions, exclamations, and interjections will help keep attention, so congratulations to the robotic grannies at the driveway. Would you like one of these in your home? Let us know down below. Engineers at Northwestern University in the United States have unveiled robots for jointly manipulating heavy objects with humans. The three bots are omnidirectional carts with delta manipulators mounted on them. What makes the invention special is that the robots provide safety for humans and loads, as well as highly accurate control of the end effector force, regardless of the potentially inaccurate movements of the mobile base. The bottom line is you can easily carry, flip, and compose heavy objects with each other completely safely and without the need for physical effort. The WVU Interactive Robotics Lab showed how a swarm of loopy robots with 1 degree of freedom achieves a given shape from an arbitrary starting position. The trick is that each robot makes its own local decision about where to move based on interactions with the two neighbors. NASA and Redwire have revealed the capabilities of the partnership OSAM-2 small space probe, which will service, manufacture, and assemble spacecraft directly in low Earth orbit. For starters, the refrigerator-sized robot will have to build, assemble, and deploy a solar array, part of whose structure it will print itself on with a 3D printer. OSAM-2 is not expected to be launched until 2024 at the earliest. MIT engineers have figured out how to keep track of their miniature robots and teach them how to communicate with each other without weighing them down with additional sensors. To do this, they made the robots glow like fireflies. The half-gram drones were given a top layer of electroluminescent particles that emit light of a certain color under the influence of an electric field. Now, it's possible to track their movement through an ordinary smartphone camera. The surprising discovery was made by scientists who examined the data collection by NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft, which took soil samples from the asteroid Bennu in October 2020. It turns out that if the craft hadn't fired its engines as soon as it grabbed the rocks and dust from the asteroid's surface, it would have just plunged into it. It turns out that the particles that make up Bennu's surface are so loose and so loosely bound together that if a person stepped on Bennu, he would feel something like diving into a pool of plastic balls that are so popular in today's playgrounds. Watch how deftly the fully autonomous robotic package system handles Peppa Pig. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and don't miss any new episodes World of Robotics and High Tech. In Japan, there was an exhibition of food processing equipment and technology FUMA, and of course, there were robots. We consolidated for you a compilation of the most interesting solutions. For example, the robot Denso Kobata Wave, developed by the HE Institute of Technology, prepared a traditional dessert for visitors, the finest pancakes with stuffing. Working with plastic objects such as fabrics or thin dough, for robots this task can be very difficult. Too many things can go wrong, but at the exhibition, the bot definitely could handle it all. The only question that remains is whether the robot was run by itself or the operator behind the scenes. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. The cutter robot has also proven its ability to handle plastic products. He can skillfully grab and remove the core from lettuce bundles, trying not to damage the delicate leaves. Another Denso Wave robot selected and collected mushrooms. It's worth noting that mushroom farms constantly need employees, but to perform such tedious and painstaking work, robots fit as well as possible. And of course, at the expo, there was always more fast food solutions. Robots can already easily cope with fries and wings, but the way that this humanoid robot measures the right amount of noodles, it's amazing. The traditional compressor company Miyakawa introduced its robot cook, who wielded a knife, but so far with imaginary products and in an isolated box. The robotic cooking inspired by the University of Leeds students to experiment on whether two robotic robots would be able to make a burger. But the interesting thing is not just that, but the control system of the two robots with manipulators for one person. The operator used the gamepad to control the walking robots and the wearable motion capture system to control the manipulation of the robot hands. In other news, a device has been created to monitor people through walls. It was developed and presented by the Israeli company Cameo Tech. The Xavier 1000 gadget is able to track objects and people through walls in real time using sensors and machine learning algorithms. Namely, the device sees the presence, the number, and remoteness of people behind walls, whether they are armed, what position they're in, and where they took it. The Xavier 1000 consists of a tripod, folding panels, and a 10-inch touchscreen. The device takes only a few seconds to form an image with the exact placement of objects and people behind the wall to continue to track their movement. Chinese scientists have developed a safe neural transplant technology and have been able to implant an electronic chip into the brain of a goat without opening its skull. In the course of the study, a stent was injected into the veins of the animal and moved through the blood vessels to the motor cortex. The chip itself was delivered through the stent to the right place. When the sensor took the right position, it connected to the electrodes to the wall of the blood vessels and began recording strong and clear electrical signals from the goat's brain. The procedure was carried out with a high-precision robot. The collected data was transmitted via computer remotely. Mimic Innovation Surgery has announced that 2 hospitals in the US have successfully performed operations using Hamini surgical robots. The system is used for procedures such as benign hysterectomy or even ovarian cyst removals. The surgical robot is equipped with a miniature humanoid arm and shoulder, elbow with radial joints, providing agility and precision of the smallest manipulations. The robot's able to inject several instruments into the body through a single portal, and it offers multi-dimensional flexibility with 360 degrees of articulation. And in Japan, the project to build the world's largest robot continues. The robot hands are completely finished and can now be controlled by anyone. To do this, you need to wear a special glove with motion capture. The robot repeats the gestures slowly with considerable delay, and this, of course, is due to its gigantic size. Remember that the height of Grandma is 25 meters, which is comparable to an 8-story house. They tested robots on the slopes of the volcano Etna of the European lunar mission. Scientists from the German Aerospace Center tested 2 scenarios of the future mission. In the former, the robots were autonomous and controlled from Earth, while in the latter, the robots were controlled from an orbital station by an operator. In addition, researchers simulated the installation of a low-frequency antenna on the back of the moon. The mission consists of 4 robots, 2 light rovers, an interactive rover, and a scout rover. Together and individually, they will be required to inspect the surface and collect samples, analyze their composition, and maintain the Wi-Fi network. Meanwhile, NASA is building submarine robots to study the oceans beneath the ice crust of Jupiter and Saturn's moons. The mission is planned in the 2030s, and it will fly near the sky. NASA has already provided funding for a new project called Independence Microprobing, or SWIM. The lander will descend to the ice crust of one of the satellites and launch the probe, which will use the heat from its nuclear battery to melt a tunnel into the ice. Then they'll release about 50 floating robots, each of them having a wedge shape and a length of 12 centimeters, and it's equipped with its own propulsion system, onboard computer, ultrasonic communication, and a set of sensors for temperature, humidity, acidity, pressure, and other chemicals. The swarms of bots will have to try to detect signs of life in the most promising environment, and that's fluid. Rocket Lab successfully launched the Capstone mission probe to lunar orbit. There, they will test whether the orbit was stable enough to accommodate the future NASA Lunar Gateway. The spacecraft will, in practice, determine what energy and thrust are required to be in orbit predicted by NASA. Capstone also tested the reliability of the innovative ship-to-ship navigation system using the Interplanetary Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, which has been in orbit around the Moon since 2009. Mojo Vision has finally tested its contact lenses with augmented reality. The full-featured Mojo Lens smart lens prototype has an impressive array of hardware. The lens has the world's smallest display with the highest density, micro LED with a diameter of less than 0.5 millimeters and a resolution of 14,000 pixels per inch, capable of displaying dynamic content. The display is also equipped with an ARM Core M0 processor, a 5 GHz radio module that allows the exchange of ultra-low latency data, and a sufficient number of accelerometers, gyroscopes, and magnetometers to track user eye movement with maximum accuracy. The outer ring has a built-in medical-grade micro battery, which will be large enough to work all day in the final version of the product, as well as power plants and wireless charging systems. The startup VR Somnium, together with Tesla's suit in 2021, presented a unique VR suit which gives tactile feedback on the whole body. In a new review from Tech Radar, how this technology works is actually explained. The suit is equipped with 90 electrodes that touch different parts of the user's body. They send discharges from 1 mA to 60 mA to the muscle. Signals of different frequencies and intensities emitted by the electrodes simulate a series of feelings and sensations, so a man in a suit can feel a blow or a shot as well as raindrops falling from above and all over the body. The company has also managed to simulate the overloaded experience of the driver of a Formula One car. According to the review, the impressions are absolutely realistic. It's only a shame that the suit is priced sky high at $20,000, and that is not for mass sale. Researchers at the ETH Zurich have developed MyoShirt, a soft upper body exoskeleton which is essentially an extra set of muscles that increases your strength and stamina. Of course, the primary focus of development is on the medicine and helping people with reduced mobility. MyoShirt consists of a vest with cuffs for forearms. Inside the fabric are built-in sensors, and all the additional equipment is enclosed in the enclosed box. Sensors collect information for an algorithm that determines the intentional movements of the wearer and the amount of force required for the movements. When moving, the motor shortens the rope to the tissue, which runs parallel to the muscles of the wearer and acts as an additional tendon. Trials have shown that the exoskeleton increases strength and endurance of patients with various illnesses by between 30 to 60%. The Canadian company IngenText, which sells modules for unlocking the software-locked features of Tesla cars, was able to bypass the speed limits in the Model S Plaid and accelerate the car to 348 km per hour. Before the hack happened, the car was limited to 280 km per hour, although in the announcement of the S Plaid, Elon Musk claimed 320 km per hour. In any case, although technically the car can accelerate to record speeds, it's obvious that the company has put a software restriction on it, but that may be due to the capabilities of the braking system in the car. By the way, it recently became known that the Tesla adaptive suspension system now will adjust the height of the road clearance to overcome uneven areas of the road. To do this, the car will scan pits, potholes, and bumps, and the software decides whether to lift the suspension or not. Tesla also showed the concept of a trailer with solar panels and the Starlink terminal for communication with the outside world, which will allow replenishing of the power reserve for the electric vehicles in the field. It will be able to generate up to 2.7 kilowatts of electricity, if of course this is implemented. A few weeks ago, General Motors launched a fully robotic cruise taxi in San Francisco. Yesterday, more than 10 of these cars stopped in the middle of the central street from a system failure and blocked it for several hours. The reason so far is not yet known, and according to Redditors, they made the joke that they finally united the union. Engineer Ling Kang Zhang shared on his YouTube channel his achievements in the development of a two-legged robot. A 70-centimeter tall bot works with the ROS system and can balance and walk and cost only $200 US. Impossible Mining startup raised over $10 million to develop and market its underwater mining robot. The device will use a manipulator to collect battery materials from the deep seabed. Upon completion of the project, AUV Impossible Mining will go to an ocean depth of 6.5 kilometers where they will collect individual polymetallic nodules. The robot will be equipped with an image recognition technology so it's able to identify the megafauna present on the nodules and leave those with megafauna intact. This should ensure that the company has independent and safe access to critical metals for batteries. Look how waterproof and hardy the Unitree robots have become, namely the B1 model, a robot with IP68 moisture protection that can carry up to 80 kilograms of cargo, and the maximum load capacity reaches more than 100 kilograms. And hey, while you're here, subscribe to the Pro Robot channel, like this video, and don't miss any new episodes from the world of robotics and high tech. Scientists at Columbia University have created the first robot that's been able to recognize its body and learn to use it on its own, from scratch, just as babies do. The researchers placed the bot in a circle of 5 streaming video cameras so it could see its movements. Next, the robot used a neural network to create its own kinematic circuit, meaning it learned how parts of its body responded to turning on the motors in its joints. It then learned how to use it to plan its movements in order to reach its goal, avoiding obstacles in the process. It took the robot 3 hours to do everything. The robot became so aware of its body that it could determine whether it had injuries and where they are located. Thus, the researchers created the first prototype of a machine that can perform simple tasks on its own without prior training, as well as detecting its own wear and tear, and in the long run, repair itself. The first orbital flight of Starship prototype spacecraft could early as August, despite the explosion of Super Heavy launch vehicle. Remember that the pre-flight test of the first stage of the Musk Starship with 33 Raptor engines took place on July 11th, which ended in an epic explosion. Despite the clouds of fire and smoke that surrounded the rocket for several hours, it managed to hold on to the launch pad. The cause of the explosion, according to Musk, could have been from the fumes of cryogenic fuel, but the entrepreneur stressed that many sensors monitor it. After assessing the damage, Starship's anticipated launch date for unmanned flights has not significantly shifted. Researchers at DeepMind presented the Plato algorithm, an artificial intelligence capable of building logic chains at the level of 3-month-old babies. Any high specialized AI easily outperforms humans in given domains, but algorithms are not strong at all in general thinking. Meanwhile, there's principles that we all understand from an early age, like permanence, where objects don't suddenly disappear, or solidity, solid objects can't pass through each other, and continuity, objects move consistently through space and time. Scientists have recently added immutability, where object properties such as their shape do not change, and directional inertia. Objects move according to the principles of inertia. All principles were demonstrated in a series of short-coded videos, on which the algorithm was trained. Next, Plato tests showed that the AI learned the principles as well. It recognized their correct operation with any objects, not just the ones in the videos, and also showed surprise if it noticed a violation of the principles. This proves that the algorithm was able to understand basic physical laws and put its own knowledge into practice. Scientists from the University of Hamburg presented a new robot learning system and demonstrated it using a robotic arm as an example. The robot arm learned how to perform subtle and precise movements just by watching how a human hand performs them. The robot monitored the position of the fingers and joints of the human hand to understand how to best position its own grip and what force should be applied when performing the action. In other words, the robot learned by relying on visual data from a single camera. To estimate the necessary force, the system equipped with a set of pressure sensors analyzed the posture and character of human hand movements. This type of progress in the future will lead to quickly training humanoid robots in the necessary manipulation skills. It looks like we will live to see dexterous and intelligent humanoid robots after all. Engineers at the University of Glasgow have introduced electronic skin for robots to help them see. The flexible photodetectors created by 3D printing tiny gallium arsenide semiconductors can capture radiation from the ultraviolet to the infrared spectrum, and at the same time, the device operates at a low operating volt of 1. The authors of the technology say that the system's able to react very quickly to light, and the invention will give robots all sorts of new capabilities. For example, robotic arms working in light-sensitive environments will be able to detect changes in conditions that threaten their safety or effectiveness. Remember when we told you about XPeng Robotics' four-legged robot? Admit it, did you laugh at the time? Well, since then, the company's made $100 million on it. That's how much it got for a project development as part of its Series A funding. The funds will be used for research and development in the field of robotics, hardware, and software. The company's first product will be the robot horse. The robot will not have to do industrial work like spot or animal. It will be solely a companion capable of caring for, entertaining, and transporting its owner. The bot will be equipped with a visual voice control, intelligent driving, target tracking, and will be able to work on different types of terrain. Japanese engineer from Kyoto University in Kajima and Kajima Construction are developing an artificial gravity architecture to make life in our outer space possible. Researchers believe that in order to explore the Moon and Mars, mankind will first need colonies in outer space, giant cylindrical spaceships with artificial gravity, including living areas, public transportation, green spaces, and water bodies. This is necessary because while adult health in low gravity can be maintained for some time, the birth and growth of healthy children under such conditions is impossible. Therefore, we need habitable objects that can generate gravity through centrifugal force as they rotate through space. The Japanese considered this prospect of migration to the Moon and Mars as real as early as the second half of the 21st century. Teams are also working on Hexatrack, an interplanetary transportation system for Earth, Moon, and Mars that maintains 1G speeds even during long-distance travel. And startup AI Space Factory presented Project Lena, a 3D printed lunar outpost developed in collaboration with NASA for the Artemis mission, whose astronauts will be based at the Moon's South Pole. Lena's ultra-thin shell will support 2.7 meter thick regolith walls, giving a lightweight, mass-optimized structure that will protect people from deadly cosmic radiation. Lena will be built by autonomous robots near Shackleton Crater, where near-continuous sunlight on the crater peaks and can provide solar power, while perpetual shade on the crater interior promises a good catch of water ice for the astronauts' needs. The modules will be built by a 3D printing system designed to operate in a vacuum at temperatures ranging from -170 to 70 degrees Celsius. Lena will be made from high-tech performance mixtures of natural lunar regolith and a polymeric binder of Earth origin. The prospect of a lunar base seems to be getting more and more real. Scientists at Virginia Tech have developed an electronic suction cup glove that mimics the unique muscular and nervous system of a sea creature. It senses objects underwater and sticks to them as well as a living prototype. The rubber suction cups covered with soft actuated membranes stick to flat and curved objects when lightly pressed. The suction cups are powered by a multitude of micro-lidar optical proximity sensors that detect nearby objects. A microcontroller connects the sensors to the synthetic suction cups to control their behavior, and at the same time, the sticking process can be customized by changing the sensor matrix depending on the task at hand. The invention can be useful for archaeologists and engineers servicing underwater objects as well as rescue divers. Space robot startup Git AI conducted a demonstration of its suspended system in a thermal vacuum chamber. A two-armed autonomous robotic manipulator with a range of 1.5 meters performed maintenance, assembly, and manufacturing work. The system will be tested outside the ISS in 2023. During the technical demonstration, the robot will be installed outside the ISS Bishop ISS lander module, where it will perform a number of tasks in open space. Remember that Git AI is also developing a humanoid robot on a four-wheeled platform that can build structures and extract samples from the surface of Moon and the Mars. In Switzerland, the company Cargo South Terrain, which is going to build a network of underground tunnels for unmanned cargo delivery, will start a project this August. The concept was presented in 2016, but it wasn't until December of this year that the Swiss parliament passed the necessary legal framework. Cargo Seuss Terrain works in the same principle as an automatic conveyor system. The drones pick up and move goods completely independently, moving through tunnels around the clock about 30 kilometers per hour. Goods are then transported on pallets or in modified containers. Thanks to refrigerated vehicles, it's also possible to transport fresh and refrigerated products. A high-speed suspension road for the small packages of goods is attached to the roof of the tunnel. The cost of the project is estimated at $30 to $35 billion for the entire 500-kilometer network, although about $3 billion should be enough for the first phase, namely the 70-kilometer stretch with 10 nodes that will connect Zurich to a logistics center in the west part of the country. Chinese media are reporting massive layoffs at Bennu Robotics. According to some reports, about 1,500 people lost their job. The company reported that this year is a forced measure in order to survive. The fact is, the robotics market in China has become hyper-saturated and competitive to the point that competition is out for the lowest price. And at the same time, the level of investment in robotics in the country has significantly dropped due to a downturn in the economy, which does not allow enough investment in the promotion of Bennu robots in the foreign markets where competition is not as high. Nevertheless, bankruptcy is out of the question, and the company promises to introduce a new product at the end of July. Computer vision researchers at Stanford University have created virtual organisms that evolve themselves and change their bodies for better adaptation. They unpredictably evolve their bodies and come up with their own method of movement. This combination of evolution and learning can help engineers create new kinds of robots. Scientists have found that although learning takes place in the brain, it's the body that influences exactly how this process takes place. Consequently, robots that develop their own bodies in simulation will be able to perform tasks better than those created by humans. We find the concept interesting. What about you? Let us know down below. Georgia Tech Robotic Musicianship Group and the Avshalom Polak Dance Theater unveiled the release of their collaboration. As a part of the project, engineers taught robotic arms to respond unpredictably to dancers, movements, and music. The goal was for both humans and robots to surprise and inspire each other. As the authors noted, if it's successful, both humans and robots will dance differently than before the meeting. Quokka Robotic Cafe unveiled a promo that makes it clear why production of the Pepper robot shut down. The humanoid robot, which is supposed to be the most dexterous and helpful in the cafe, in fact does nothing at all. It only attracts attention. And really, a huge rubber duck or flyer could do the same thing. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and don't miss any new episodes from the world of robotics and high tech.